the first thing I want to ask you is, we are probably about an hour and a half after the verdict was announced, and the judge read the verdict, and he was found guilty, Derek Chauvin, on all 3 counts. What is your initial reaction?
My initial reaction is that, I'm sorry. My initial reaction is that the jury did the job, and we applaud. The system actually worked in this instance. And then, of course, there are many, many other cases that are still open and that are out there. And it gives us, people of color, hope that we continue to have situations like we've seen today. These types of verdicts in other situations for Black and brown people in the country.
Definitely. One of the things that was being said as soon as the verdict came through is that this is a historic verdict. Do you think it's historic, or do you think that this should be the expectation that everyone, regardless of color, race, creed, nationality, receives justice?
You're right, it is historic, but it's also should be something that should be expected anytime, relevant to things like this happening to any Black or brown person in the country. And this should be the process always for us. We should never experience things like we've seen with George Floyd, cases like Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, DeJuan Wright, and things going historically even all the way back to Emmett Till. It's just something that we, as Black and brown people, we wake up every day, and when we go out the door and we go down the road and we're riding, we're driving, and we don't, wherever we may be going, we're always like looking over our shoulder, thinking that something's going to happen to us if the lights turn on, to pull us over. And, but we should never feel that way, or anything. I think that, when I'm sorry, I just can't really focus right now. I'm just, I'm excited about the moment, obviously. But I'm also, just want to see more. Enough is still not being done for us in the country. That's the way I feel right now. And, but I am excited about what happened today. The jury did its job. All the testimony that was given, everything that we've seen on the video, and social media. It was very relevant to, what should happen, and that should always happen. We should never always, we should never be in a place or I feel or think that, justice cannot happen for us, because we should be treated fairly and equally, just like any other race or culture when crimes are committed. And I think in this situation, justice was served.
Tell me about, with this case, you said you're excited, but still more needs to be done. What do you want to see happen next in this country?
I think that we should, focus on things, obviously advocate for the Justice and Policing Act, which is something that's federally mandated for data collection, things relevant to streamlining federal law to prosecute excessive force. The fight for justice is still not over, obviously, and I know, but we need some federal standards to address issues of excessive force. And then, and also, there is a history, obviously, of systemic and structural racism that exists in this country that just need to be dealt with and addressed. And so I'm just hoping that, obviously we come together to find solutions so that we could address these problems and stuff that we continue to experience in the criminal justice system.
last year, almost last year, 1 year exactly, the George Floyd death occurred, and the nation cried out for justice reform. In Lancaster, there were a lot of cries for justice reform. Has there been any progress or movement made on police reform, justice reform, community policing made since that time?
Um, I think there has been some moves, but it's still not enough. And that's why we need to continue to come together to find better and more proactive and progressive solutions to address those issues relevant to policing. And we still have much more work to do.
And that is something that has been echoed, time and time again. This is the beginning. We have much more work to do. And I think that's so important. One of the things, I was speaking with people before the verdict was announced, and that was like at like 3:30, 2:30. And both white community leaders, Black community leaders had said, something that I thought was disheartening. They said, I'm almost fearful to hope. And that's a heavy phrase to say, before a verdict is coming out that we all watched, to say, I'm almost fearful to hope. Did you have a similar feeling this morning? I know you said you're so very anxious right now. So, how did you feel like that before this verdict was read?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I felt that way just like many, many other people. Fearful to hope, I think, is a very good way of describing it. And anxiety, and then not knowing which way the verdict is going to go, because so many times in this country, Black and brown people have not gotten justice because of the way the system is shaped within the criminal justice system. And, and now, obviously, right now, being cautiously optimistic and hopeful. And, and it's the first time that a police officer has been prosecuted in Minneapolis, which is, also historical too. So, we're just hoping, obviously, we see more cases like this, obviously get, a good jury and a proper and appropriate verdict, so that, people of color can get justice in the criminal justice system. The day was a start, and we're just hoping that these kind of situations continue, and hopeful that we got to come together and public officials, community as a whole, organizations like the NAACP and many, many others to come together and find ways to address the criminal justice system and its policies that may create injustices for all. And I think even with what we've seen, it wasn't just African Americans. There was a diverse group of people that protested across the world. The largest mass demonstration, it was described, to highlight the killing of George Floyd. And then also, highlighting the other deaths that have occurred due to excessive force in this country with Black and brown people. And, obviously we continue to be disproportionately affected in many of those areas in criminal justice system, but then also even in health and in economics and jobs. It goes beyond just today. There are many, many other areas where change needs to occur. And so, just got to be hopeful and prayerful that, we see more verdicts like today, and then, better things come out of it.
Definitely. That is so key, that we have to hope that there are more verdicts like today, more justice being served for people who are Black and brown and who are, rightfully deserve justice to be served. One of the things that was noted is that this is one of the first instances where we had video footage. Typically we don't have video footage in an instance like this. We've seen the Sandra Bland, we've seen, we've heard case after case where there was no footage. I think the only time that we may have had footage was Alton Sterling. I don't want to be incorrect when I say this, but I think there was another occasion where there was video footage. So I think that was also impactful, that made a difference. But for all of the names like Breonna Taylor, when we don't have video footage, for all of the instances where there is not video footage, do you think that this case will make a difference, if this occurs again or when it occurs again? Do we have to have video footage for Black and brown people to get justice?
I think it's definitely important. And I believe and think that video footage will help in many, many situations like, what happened. I think it really impacted a lot of decisions and stuff that was made, even through the courts. And then also much of the testimony that was given that spoke to what had happened. Everyone in the world watched this video. And it was just undisputable, everyone seen what happened. And so I think it definitely helps the, impact, how or what it could do to address, issues that come up in the criminal justice system, like we see with George Floyd.
Definitely. So community stepping up and holding those in power accountable, because, that wasn't a 17-year-old girl holding that man who knew, right from wrong and kept reporting. So definitely community surrounding and holding people accountable. Do you have anything else that you want to add in regards to, your initial reaction? I know we still have several weeks before sentencing is handled down. Several weeks, yes. So do you have anything else that you want to add right now with initial thoughts? And, he was taken into custody, had been out on, bail, taken into custody, handcuffed, and walked away.
Well, are you asking me what I'm thinking about from now until, you said what now, the rest of
the sentencing? Yes.
No.
Got it. Thank you so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it. I know that this is.
I started a little unfocused on the early part of it because I'm still like processing all of this. Like, wow.
How can we as a country not be, a little shaken right now? So many of us were, watching this case, watching it since the video went viral. It's almost been a complete year. So how could you not be anxious? I don't think anyone who saw that last May and until this verdict was delivered wasn't anxious, so yeah.
Yeah, we had also the situation with Duran Wright was another one, and we'll have to see what's going to happen in that situation too. That's going to be another real big thing that we're going to be monitoring, obviously, and hoping that things are properly addressed with that situation too.
Yes, there are too many names.
Yeah, that's a good description. Too many names, and even the ones that we know about, but there's many, many others that we don't know about that have happened also, or maybe some unspoken situations as well. So many Black and brown people are impacted with pullovers and things that happen even in the prison. It's just so much.
I guess I know I said that was my last question, but I guess my last question would be, and this is not for in the next 8 weeks, what you're hoping to see happen. This may not even be in the next year, what you're hoping to see happen, but overall for the next generation, for generations that come after us, what do you hope for Black and brown little girls and boys that are going to grow up in this country in regards to policing?
And what do I hope for them? What I hope for them is that they don't experience what we always have been experiencing in history, relevant to policing in the country. I'm just wanting for them to not go through much of what most Black and brown people encounter in this country with law enforcement. Relevant to situations like George Floyd.
Hoping that they would never have to live through or see another George Floyd. Definitely. Like I said, thank you so much for speaking with me. I know this is an emotional time right now. Please, get some time, rest, decompress. I appreciate you talking with me.